Moving on now to Shane Cassells, 5 minutes.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach, and welcome to the Acting Commissioner, and to wish him well in his role. It certainly was one of the shortest opening statements we're ever likely to get at the PAC, and I think, Commissioner, it is hugely regrettable that you've taken the decision not to honour this commitment of releasing the report into the reopening of Garda stations, and the fact that it's not going to be done, Cathaoirleach. And this is the key point, it is a blow to transparency, which has already been damaged during the hearings we have held with members of the Guards during the first half of this year. And I think that has been played out well enough in the public domain up until this point. And the context of this, Commissioner, is that it's going to cause huge anger, and I think we should dwell on this for a moment, to the rest of the country, especially in rural areas where those 139 stations have been closed or scaled down to buzzer boxes, which is in effect the same thing. And at the same time, they see pictures in the Irish Independent of the smiley-headed Shane Ross holding up a poster with his local councillor saying, "I've got you, step aside, reopen." That's the context for the background to this. And so the people in my county, be it Atboy or Oldcastle or Castlepollard or Enfield, in my constituency of Meath, will find that very hard to swallow here this morning. Now, the last time Garda management were here in July, with then Commissioner O'Sullivan, you were here as well, the front page of my local paper, the Meath Chronicle, and I held it up to you, ran a headline, "Out of control, in respect of crime in Meath at that time." That was that morning's Meath Chronicle the last time you were here. Would you believe that this morning's Meath Chronicle, as you arrived in here, has a headline that screams, "Shock rise in Meath crime stats"? That's this morning's, up 59% in Meath. And so huge parts of my county are under extreme pressure because Garda resources, be it personnel or the physical element, where a huge part of my county and everyone else's county is now bereft of the actual physical presence of the force. And I want to say, Commissioner, and I wrote to you this week actually, because the Chief Superintendent in my county, Fergus Seeley, is doing a fantastic job in terms of trying to thwart the gangs that are coming from places in Dublin, coming down the motorways and targeting rural areas. He's doing a fantastic job, but he needs the personnel. And the 10 extra guards that are coming in October are simply not enough. And the context is, the towns and villages in Meath or in Tipperary or in Sligo, where Garda stations are not reopening and there's an absence, will have people living there feeling very angry at this morning's proceedings, not knowing why their Garda stations remain closed and step aside and others are opening. So can I ask, one, what would you say to those people this morning who will read the report or listen into this? And secondly, I believe that you made that commitment in good faith in July. And can I ask specifically, what has really changed since then to not allow this to come into the public domain?
Mr. Golan, you have 2 minutes before I move on to Deputy Kelly.
Okay, Deputy. I suppose what would be useful in the context of your statement and questions is to understand the criteria that were applied by Assistant Commissioner O'Driscoll as he went to work to establish what the 6 stations, where the 6 stations would be. So I can list those.
Please do.
So the first one would be to ensure that there was a rural, urban and Dublin dimension to the pilot scheme. There were stations closed right across the country in all different categories, having due regard to population and crime trends. Limiting the choice of station to those that remain in state ownership, and that goes back to a previous point I was going to finish out on. That, from the point of view of ensuring that it wasn't going to be a buyback situation of state property. Consideration regarding those that can be opened with least delay, and the impact on the delivery of policing services generally of any particular reopening. It formed the high-level criteria. But of course, there's very valuable input to be got, and you've acknowledged it there in relation to local Garda management, the critical part they would play in relation to calling out what they see as being the priorities for their particular areas. So that's the piece of work that Assistant Commissioner O'Driscoll set about, and some aspects of that were very detailed and needed a lot of work to drill down into trends, especially in crime and population. And we had the benefit of having a recent census of population which showed and which informed his deliberations in relation to what was eventually included in the report. So I think that's of use to all of the committee. And this is the position I had in July in relation to criteria. I have no problem in sharing the criteria because I know that this is...
Yeah.
Sorry,
no,
you said July. Why?
When I was here in July,
okay,
when I was
sorry,
asked about
criteria,
there was a conversation around criteria that Deputy Murphy alluded to, and that is why I was forthcoming in the context of giving that at that point. However, there was a commitment then, and I accept that the full report could be given. But and going back to your point, Deputy Cassells, it's just not my gift to give it. The report is in the department, and they have to. It's for the department to release that report.
It's interesting because you mentioned census and population trends there, and I'm in a county of 200,000 people, yes, where crime is up 59%, yes. And so I mean I don't have the level of intelligence of crime reports that you have, but I have the very basic statistics that show that there's obviously an impact by the closure of stations, the reduction in personnel numbers that's having in this county, and I'm sure other deputies could say the same as well.
Okay,